Imagine this. A billionaire CEO racing through life chasing the next big deal suddenly stops cold in a crowded subway station. Why? Because a little girl is playing a song only he should know. And when he looks into her eyes, he sees his own. What happens next will shatter his world and could break your heart. Stay with us. This is one story you won't want to miss. Dear friend, what you're about to experience is not just a story, it's a deeply human journey about loss, resilience, and the quiet, unexpected ways love finds us when we need it most. If this is your first time here, I invite you to drop a comment and tell us where you're watching from. We love hearing your voice. And if you're someone who believes in second chances, in the hidden strength of ordinary people, and in stories that stay with you long after they end, consider subscribing and tapping the bell icon. We share moments that matter. Thank you for being part of this one. Now, let's begin. Wherever life has placed you today, this story is for you. It was a crisp fall afternoon in Los Angeles, the kind of day where sunlight slants through the glass and steel canyons of downtown, and the air carries a sharp clarity that makes everything feel just a little more alive. Nathan Grayson, CEO of Grayson Tech, one of the most powerful AI firms in America, wasn't thinking about clarity. His head throbbed from back-to-back board meetings and a relentless merger negotiation that could define his career or destroy it. His carefully crafted empire hung in the balance, and with it the legacy he had been forced to chase his entire life. At 44, Nathan wore success like armor. A tailored charcoal suit, a vintage Rolex, a perfectly composed expression. But inside exhaustion, loneliness, and a gnawing sense that somehow he'd lost sight of the things that once mattered. That afternoon, his car service had broken down near Union Station. With an hour to spare before his next meeting, he wandered through the historic terminal phone in hand mind still spinning with numbers and projections. And that's when he heard it. Soft, clear notes floated through the chaos of the station, a melody both haunting and achingly familiar. The crowd around him blurred. His feet, almost without will, moved toward the sound. Beneath the grand-arched ceiling of Union Station, amidst the clamor of commuters and tourists, a small girl sat at a battered electric keyboard. Her thin fingers danced across the keys with a precision and depth far beyond her years. She couldn't have been more than 9. Auburn curls framed her delicate face. A worn cardboard sign rested beside her jar of crumpled bills, playing for Mom's treatment. Thank you. Nathan froze. The song she played, he knew it. A forgotten composition. One he had written himself a lifetime ago. A private melody meant for someone he once loved. Someone he had lost. He moved closer, heart pounding. The crowd swirled around them, oblivious. When the piece ended, the girl looked up. Her eyes, piercing green, clear as glass, met his. And in that instant, something inside him fractured. Those eyes. His eyes. Before he could think, Nathan reached for his wallet and knelt beside her. He placed a crisp $100 bill into the jar. Thank you, sir, the girl said, her voice soft but steady. That's very kind. You play beautifully? Nathan managed his voice tight. Where did you learn my mom? She answered proudly. She went to Juilliard before she got sick. Nathan's breath caught. What's your name? He asked, barely above a whisper. Aria Collins. Aria Collins. The name slammed into him like a wave. Julia Collins. His Julia. The woman he had loved and lost 10 years ago when his late father had forced him to choose between family loyalty and the life he wanted. The woman he had tried and failed to forget. Nathan steadied himself, forcing the next question out. Why are you playing here? Aria glanced at the sign. My mom's really sick. The treatments cost a lot. We don't have enough insurance, so I help. She smiled a brave, weary smile that tore through Nathan's defenses. "How old are you, Arya?" "Almost 10, she replied, her fingers drifting back to the keys. 10. A calculation sparked in Nathan's mind. The timeline fit too perfectly. His world tilted on its axis. He swallowed hard. "Does your father see in your life?" Arya shook her head. "It's just me and Mom. Always has been." The words landed like a blow. Nathan's phone buzzed an urgent call from Victor Langley, his COO, reminding him about the merger prep. The corporate world clawed at him, but for once he couldn't look away. "I have to go," he said, voice shaking. "But please, keep playing. You have a gift." Arya smiled again. "I will." Nathan turned each step away, heavier than the last. Behind him, Arya's melody rose once more, a thread weaving tighter around his heart. In the back of his sleek black town car, Nathan stared out the window, eyes unfocused. The city flashed by, meaningless. Could it be? Could she be? The girl with his eyes playing his song in a subway station to save the mother he'd once sworn to love forever. He didn't know the answer yet, but he knew this nothing in his carefully ordered world would ever be the same again. And deep within him, a forgotten truth stirred, a truth about love loss, and the music that binds us in ways we cannot understand. This was no coincidence. Some melodies return to us when we need them most. As the car pulled away, Nathan glanced at his phone. He would be back at Union Station. Tomorrow, the next day. As many times as it took. Because some questions are too important to leave unanswered. And some connections, once lost, deserve a second chance. Now what Nathan didn't know was that behind that brave smile, Arya carried her own secrets. Secrets that would soon unravel the life he thought he knew. But that's a story for the next chapter. The next morning, Nathan Grayson sat in his penthouse office on the 52nd floor of Grayson Tech Tower, staring at a single name scribbled on a yellow notepad. Julia Collins. He had barely slept. The haunting image of Arya's eyes, his eyes kept replaying in his mind, alongside the familiar strains of the forgotten melody she had played so effortlessly. There were too many unanswered questions. The timelines, the song, the way Arya had said, "It's just me and Mom." Always has been. Nathan couldn't let it go. For 10 years he had believed Julia had moved on. His late father, Richard Grayson, had ensured that belief was absolute. Nathan still remembered the chilling final conversation with his father, how Richard had called Julia an unacceptable risk to the Grayson legacy. He had claimed Julia had taken the money and disappeared. Nathan had been too broken and too controlled by his father's iron grip to dig deeper. Now doubt gnawed at him. What if it had all been a lie? Driven by a rising urgency, Nathan picked up the phone and called Michael Chen, a private investigator he trusted implicitly. Michael, Nathan said quietly, "I need information on someone." Discreetly, Julia Collins, current address, employment, medical status, and any documentation on a child, a daughter named Arya Collins. There was a long pause on the other end. "I'll handle it," Michael said finally. "You'll have something within 48 hours. 2 days later, a sealed manila envelope landed on Nathan's desk. His hands trembled as he opened it. Julia Collins, 38. Single mother. Employed part-time as a piano teacher at a community center in East LA. Diagnosed with stage 3 breast cancer 6 months ago. Receiving treatment at Cedars-Sinai under Dr. Fiona Park. Insurance coverage minimal. Medical debt overwhelming. And there it was, a copy of Arya's birth certificate. Father unknown, date of birth October 15, 2013. 9 months after the night Nathan's world had fallen apart. He exhaled shakily, leaning back in his chair. The evidence was undeniable. Arya was almost certainly his daughter. A child he had never known existed. a child forced to busk in a subway station to pay for her mother's treatments. For a long time, Nathan sat in stunned silence, the weight of 10 lost years crashing over him. Finally, he picked up the phone and called Rachel Alvarez, director of the Grayson Foundation. "I want to establish a special grant," he said, "an anonymous one for local musicians battling illness. Make sure Cedars-Sinai's oncology wing sees that Julia Collins's outstanding bills are paid in full." Rachel hesitated. "Nathan, is there something?" "Please," he interrupted. "Just do it. Quietly." Later that day, in a small apartment in East LA, Julia opened her mail and stared at the hospital letter in disbelief. All past due amounts cleared, future treatments covered. She clutched the letter to her chest, her hands trembling. Mom, Aria, called from the other room. "Are you okay?" Julia quickly wiped her eyes and folded the letter. "I'm fine, sweetheart, just a good surprise." But deep inside, her heart pounded. She knew who had done this. There could be no other explanation. Meanwhile, Nathan's days blurred into a haze of board meetings and sleepless nights. He found himself slipping away from his carefully structured corporate life, driven by a need he could no longer suppress. Victor Langley, his ambitious COO, noticed the change. At their next leadership meeting, Victor leaned in, voice slick with feigned concern. "Everything all right, Nathan? You seem distracted these days. The merger with Novatech is at a critical stage." Nathan forced a neutral smile. "I'm handling it." But Victor wasn't fooled. He had always resented Nathan's rise to CEO after Richard Grayson's death. Now, sensing weakness, he saw an opportunity. That evening, Nathan returned to Union Station. The haunting notes of Aria's music once again drew him through the crowded terminal. She looked up and smiled as he approached. "You came back," she said. "I had to," he replied softly. Would you play that piece again?" "The one you played the first time?" Aria nodded eagerly. "It's called Whispers of Winter. My mom taught it to me. She said it was written by someone very special to her." Nathan's breath caught. He had written Whispers of Winter for Julia during a snowy night in Boston just weeks before their separation. As Aria's small fingers brought the melody to life, Nathan's throat tightened. Tears stung his eyes. When she finished, he whispered, "You play it beautifully. Your mom must be very proud." Aria beamed. "She says music helps us remember the good things even when life gets hard." Nathan smiled sadly. "She's a wise woman." Just then, a figure appeared in the distance. Julia. Frail, wrapped in a scarf, moving slowly, but with quiet determination. Aria ran to her. "Mom, he's back. He loves the song." Julia's gaze met Nathan's across the crowd. Shock. Recognition. 1,000 unspoken words passed between them. Nathan took a hesitant step forward. "Julia," he began. Her eyes shimmered with unshed tears. "Not here," she whispered. "Please, not here." Nathan nodded, his voice breaking. "I just needed to see her, to know." Julia's voice wavered. "Now you do." As she guided Aria away, Nathan stood frozen, heart shattering anew. The truth was undeniable. The past was rising. And if he didn't act soon, it would be too late. That night, in the dim solitude of his penthouse, Nathan opened a dusty drawer and retrieved an old composition journal. His fingers traced the faded cover, "Whispers of Winter, for Julia, for the life we should have had." He closed his eyes, grief and longing flooding through him. Sometimes life gives us one chance to make things right, and sometimes it gives us two. He wasn't going to waste it, not this time. But little did he know forces were already moving against him, forces that would soon threaten everything he held dear. The headline spread across Nathan Grayson's office monitor like wildfire. "Billionaire, CEO's secret love. child exposed, single mother battling cancer left to struggle. Below it, a grainy photo, Julia, frail and pale, exiting Cedars-Sinai with a scarf wrapped around her head. Another shot of Aria playing her battered keyboard at Union Station, a jar of coins beside her. Nathan's heart slammed against his ribs. He gripped the desk, struggling to breathe. Victor Langley. Nathan didn't need proof to know who had leaked the story. For weeks, Victor had been circling, sensing blood in the water. Now, with the Novatech merger days from completion, this scandal could topple everything. His phone buzzed with urgent messages from PR board members, investors. Calls he couldn't ignore much longer. Then another call lit up the screen. Laura Bennett. He answered instantly. "Laura, have you seen it?" Laura's voice was tight with anger. "I have. I never wanted this. You should have known it was coming," she shot back. "You poked a sleeping beast, Nathan. Now it's Aria and Julia paying the price." Nathan closed his eyes. How are they? Julia's devastated. And Aria. She's terrified. Reporters were outside their apartment this morning. Laura's voice cracked. Julia's moving them to a safe location tonight, but Nathan... She paused, voice trembling. "If you care about them, truly care, you need to fight for them now." "Not just with words. I will," Nathan whispered, "I promise." But promises weren't enough. Not anymore. At the emergency board meeting that afternoon, the room buzzed with tension. Cameras from the media camped outside Grayson Tech's headquarters. Inside, Victor Langley stood at the head of the conference table, a carefully crafted expression of regret masking the ambition gleaming in his eyes. "I'm afraid," Victor began smoothly, "that recent revelations regarding Mr. Grayson's personal life have raised serious concerns about his capacity to lead at this critical juncture." Murmurs rippled through the board. Victor pressed on. "The Novatech merger is on the brink of collapse. Investors are skittish. The media is relentless. We must consider whether Mr. Grayson's continued leadership serves this company's best interests." Nathan stood slowly, the weight of the room pressing down on him. But when he spoke, his voice was clear, unwavering. "You all know me," he began. "You know the company I've built not for my father's legacy, but for the people in this room, for our employees, for the future we're creating." He met each board member's gaze one by one. "Yes, it's true. I have a daughter I never knew about. And the woman I loved has been fighting cancer alone because of decisions I made years ago. Decisions influenced by a father who cared more about power than about people." Nathan's throat tightened. He forced himself to go on. "I can't change the past, but I can choose what kind of man I am today, and what kind of company this will be." Silence. Then a slow, deliberate clap echoed through the room. Laura Bennett stood in the doorway, fierce and unyielding. "For the record," she said, voice ringing clear, "Julia Collins named Nathan Grayson as Aria's legal guardian months ago." And unlike certain board members, her gaze flicked to Victor. He's actually been there for them. Gasps. A flurry of whispers. Victor's mask slipped, a flicker of fury flashing in his eyes. But Nathan didn't gloat. He simply said, "I won't abandon my daughter, and I won't abandon this company. But if this board chooses otherwise, I'll leave with my head high and my priorities finally in the right place." The board fell silent. Then Eleanor Chen, the oldest member, spoke. "Mr. Grayson," she said softly, "I've known you since you were a boy. Your father built an empire, yes, but empires built on fear collapse. What you're building now with transparency, with integrity, that's leadership." She turned to the others. "I move that we table this motion and proceed with the merger as planned." A chorus of agreement followed. The motion to remove Nathan failed. But the battle wasn't over. Not yet. That evening, Nathan found himself outside a modest townhouse where Julia and Aria had taken refuge. Laura opened the door, eyes wary but not hostile. "There, in the back," she said quietly. Nathan entered, heart hammering. In the small living room, Arya sat curled on the couch, clutching her favorite stuffed bear. Julia rested nearby, her face, drawn eyes shadowed. Nathan knelt before Arya, voice trembling. "I'm so sorry, sweetheart. None of this should have touched you." Arya looked up, her small face etched with confusion and hurt. Why did they say those things? On the news, Nathan's voice broke. "Because some people care more about winning than about what's right. But I will never let anyone hurt you again." Arya's eyes shimmered. Slowly she reached out her small hand, finding his. "Promise." Nathan gathered her gently into his arms. "I promise, with all my heart." Julia watched tears sliding down her cheeks. Later, as Arya slept, Nathan and Julia sat together in the dim kitchen. "I'm so tired," Julia whispered, "fighting the cancer, fighting the world." "You don't have to fight alone anymore," he said softly. "I'm here. For you. For her, if you'll let me." Julia's gaze held his fragile hope flickering beneath the weariness. "I'm scared," she admitted. "So am I," Nathan said. "But I'd rather be scared together than alone." In that moment, the years melted away, the betrayals, the silence, the pain. What remained was raw, imperfect love, a love forged through loss now finding its way back through forgiveness. As dawn crept over the city, Nathan knew the road ahead would be hard. But some battles are worth every scar, and this was a battle he would fight with everything he had. The morning of the board's final vote dawned cold and gray, a thin drizzle veiling the Los Angeles skyline. Inside Grayson Tech's glass-walled conference room, tension rippled like a live wire. Cameras remained stationed outside the building, eager for the next scandalous headline. Nathan Grayson stood at the head of the table, outwardly composed, but beneath the surface every nerve vibrated. Across from him, Victor Langley exuded predatory confidence. He believed this was the moment he would seize control. Nathan's phone buzzed in his pocket. He glanced down. A single text from Laura Bennett. "Julia going into surgery now. Arya with me. You should be here." A stab of guilt pierced Nathan's chest. The very reason he had fought this battle for Julia, for Arya, was calling him away. But walking out now meant risking everything. Victor rose smoothly. "Ladies and gentlemen," he began, voice dripping with faux solemnity. "Today we face a choice. Grayson Tech's future cannot be tied to personal chaos. Investors demand stability. Leadership requires clarity. I propose we proceed with the vote of no confidence." He turned to Nathan with a thin smile. "Unless Mr. Grayson would like to say a few final words." Nathan stood slowly, scanning the faces of those around the table. Friends, foes, people who had known his father, Richard Grayson, a man who had built an empire with an iron fist. He took a breath. "My father taught me that business is war." Nathan began quietly, that the appearance of strength mattered more than the reality of compassion. "For years I lived by that rule." He looked down, voice thickening. "And in doing so I lost the most important parts of myself. I lost love, I lost family, I lost time I can never regain." He raised his gaze again, voice steady now. "I won't make that mistake again. Grayson Tech will stand for more than power. It will stand for people, for integrity, for second chances." A hush fell over the room. Nathan drew a trembling breath. "As for the vote, do what you must. But know this, if I leave today, I will walk out with my daughter's hand in mine, my head high and my heart full." The room remained frozen. Then Eleanor Chen, the eldest board member, rose slowly. "I knew your father well, Nathan," she said softly. And he was wrong about what makes a great leader. It isn't ruthlessness, it's humanity. She faced the room. I move that we dismiss this motion and proceed with the merger as planned. A beat of silence, then murmurs of assent. Hands raised one by one. The motion failed. Victor's face darkened, his grasp on power slipping through his fingers. But Nathan had no time to savor victory. He was already racing from the room. At Cedars-Sinai, the sterile scent of antiseptic filled the air. In the waiting room, Laura sat with Arya, her arm wrapped protectively around the trembling girl. Nathan entered breathless. Arya looked up, eyes wide with hope and fear. "Is Mom okay?" she whispered. Nathan knelt beside her, gathering her close. "She's in surgery," he said softly, "but she's strong, just like you." Arya clung to him, her small body shaking. "I'm scared," she choked out. "So am I," Nathan whispered. "But we'll face this together, I promise." Hours crawled by. Nathan sat with Arya reading stories, playing soft duets on her tablet. They clung to those fragile moments, finding comfort in each note, each word. Then finally, Dr. Fiona Park emerged, her face drawn but hopeful. "She's stable," she said. "The surgery went well. We'll monitor her closely, but for now she's out of danger." Relief washed through Nathan, leaving him weak with gratitude. Later, as evening fell, Julia stirred in her hospital bed, eyes fluttering open. Nathan sat at her side, fingers trembling as he took her hand. "Julia," he whispered, "I'm here." Her gaze focused slowly, a faint smile curving her lips. "You stayed," she murmured. "Always," he said, voice thick. "I should have been here years ago. I should have fought harder." Tears welled in Julia's eyes. "I wanted to tell you," she whispered. "But your father, he made sure I couldn't." "I know," Nathan said, "and I failed you. I believed his lies, but no more." He leaned closer, voice breaking. "I love you, Julia. I love our daughter, and I will spend the rest of my life proving that." Silent tears traced down Julia's cheeks. She squeezed his hand weakly. "You already have," she whispered. In the hallway, Laura watched through the glass eyes glistening. Later that night, Nathan returned to the waiting room, where Arya sat curled beneath a blanket. "She's awake," he told her softly. "She's going to be okay." Arya's eyes filled with tears. "Can I see her soon?" Nathan promised, "But for now, would you like to play something?" "For her." Arya nodded. Together they found an empty lounge with an upright piano. Nathan sat beside her as Arya's small fingers traced the familiar keys. Whispers of winter. The melody they both knew, born of love loss and hope. Nathan joined her, his deeper notes weaving beneath hers, the music binding them in a fragile, beautiful thread. As they played, tears slipped down Nathan's face. For the first time in years, they were no longer tears of regret. They were tears of healing. When they finished, Arya looked up. "Dad?" she whispered shyly. The word struck Nathan's heart with overwhelming force. "Yes, sweetheart," he choked out. "I'm your dad." Arya's smile broke through her tears. "I'm glad," she said simply. "I've waited so long." Nathan gathered her close, holding her tightly. "So have I," he whispered. In that moment, amid the chaos and uncertainty, forgiveness blossomed. Not just for the past, but for the future they would build together. A crisp December wind whispered through Los Angeles as the city shimmered beneath a tapestry of holiday lights. For the first time in months, the relentless media storm had quieted, and Nathan Grayson's world, once built on steel and ambition, now revolved around something far more fragile, far more precious. Family. Julia had completed her final round of treatment. Though still recovering her strength, returned day by day, her color warming, her smile more frequent. Arya flourished beside her, lighter, freer, her music blooming with new depth. They had traded Julia's small apartment for the sanctuary of Nathan's penthouse. The towering glass walls once felt cold and empty. Now they echoed with laughter, late-night piano sessions, and the comforting cadence of everyday life. On one such evening, Nathan watched from the doorway as Julia guided Aria through a new piece. Sunlight streamed through the windows, casting soft halos around them. "You're rushing the bridge," Julia teased gently. Aria grinned. "I know, I'm too excited." Nathan's heart swelled. These small, ordinary moments, ones he'd once deemed distractions, had become the center of his universe. Later, as they prepared dinner together, Aria chattered about her upcoming audition. "They invited me to perform at Walt Disney Concert Hall," she announced proudly. "It's for the Youth Showcase. And they said I could do an original arrangement." Nathan blinked, momentarily stunned. "That's incredible, sweetheart." Julia smiled softly. "She's been working on something special." Aria's eyes sparkled. "I want us to play together. You, me, and Mom. A trio." Nathan's throat tightened. "Are you sure?" "I've never been more sure," Aria said. "It's our story, in music." Rehearsals began in earnest. Each evening, the penthouse transformed into a studio of sorts. Nathan dusted off his grandfather's Steinway, rediscovering the joy of playing, not for an audience, not for acclaim, but for love. Julia, though cautious of her stamina, embraced her violin once more. The years fell away as her bow danced across the strings, her passion undiminished. And Aria shone. She led them with confidence, weaving her own variations into Nathan's original composition, Whispers of Winter. It became something new, a piece no longer rooted in sorrow, but in hope. As the night of the performance approached, nerves fluttered beneath their excitement. Media buzzed quietly about the event, speculating whether Nathan Grayson would appear. But for Nathan, none of that mattered. This wasn't about the press. It wasn't about salvaging reputation. It was about playing beside his daughter, honoring Julia's resilience, and celebrating the family they had become. The evening of the showcase arrived crisp and clear. Walt Disney Concert Hall glittered against the indigo sky, festive lights adorning its sweeping curves. Backstage, Nathan adjusted his cufflinks with trembling fingers. Julia reached for his hand. "You're shaking." He laughed softly. "I've closed billion-dollar deals with less anxiety. You'll be perfect," she whispered. Aria peeked around the curtain, wide-eyed. "It's packed." Nathan knelt before her, voice gentle. "Remember why we're here. Not for them, for us." Aria nodded, determination gleaming. When their moment came, the stage lights warmed them in a golden glow. The audience hushed as Aria approached the microphone. 6 months ago, she began, her voice clear and steady. "I was playing piano in Union Station to help my mom with her treatments. I never knew my dad. I thought he didn't know about me." A ripple of emotion moved through the crowd, but music brought us back together. She continued, glancing at Nathan and Julia. "Tonight, we're playing a new version of my dad's song, one my mom taught me and one we've made our own." She smiled softly, because sometimes melodies can build bridges where words can't. Nathan's breath caught. Tears threatened. They took their places. Julia poised with her violin. Nathan at the piano, aria between them. As the first notes unfurled, time seemed to slow. Nathan's fingers moved with newfound freedom, no longer bound by perfection but by presence. Julia's violin soared, her tone rich with emotion, a testament to her fight, her grace. And Aria led them with luminous clarity, her small hands shaping the music into a story of lost love and second chances. The final notes lingered in the air, a shimmering echo of everything they had overcome. then silence. For a heartbeat, the hall remained hushed. And then an eruption of applause rising like a wave, carrying with it a collective exhale of hope. Nathan rose, gathering Julia and Arya into an embrace. In that moment, beneath the stage lights, surrounded by strangers moved to tears, they were simply a family, whole, unbroken. Backstage, amid a flurry of congratulations, Arya tugged at Nathan's sleeve. "Dad," she whispered shyly. He knelt, smiling through tears. "Yes, sweetheart, I was thinking. Maybe we could write a new song. Together." Nathan's heart swelled. "I'd like nothing more." In the days that followed, life settled into a new rhythm. Grayson Tech moved forward under Nathan's steady leadership, shaped now by the lessons he had earned not in boardrooms but at hospital bedsides and in quiet moments at the piano. Victor Langley had resigned quietly, unable to weather the storm of public backlash and board support that had rallied behind Nathan's authenticity. But those victories mattered little compared to the ones that truly counted. On weekends, Nathan and Julia often sat beside Arya, collaborating on new melodies. Their home, once a monument to ambition, now echoed with laughter, music, and love. One crisp morning, as sunlight streamed through the penthouse, Nathan paused to watch Julia and Arya at the piano. For a long time he had believed that some mistakes could never be undone. But now he understood, while we cannot rewrite the past, we can compose a new future, one note, one choice, one act of love at a time. And sometimes, when we least expect it, life grants us a second chance to play the melody of our hearts, if we are brave enough to listen. Sometimes the most extraordinary stories begin in the most ordinary places. A busy subway station, a quiet melody played by a child, a single glance that changes everything. Nathan Grayson never expected his life to unravel and then be rebuilt in the span of a few months. A man, once consumed by corporate ambition and haunted by his father's unforgiving legacy, he believed that building a world-class empire would finally bring him peace. Yet, beneath the towering glass of Grayson Tech, loneliness grew fed by the ghosts of what he had lost. Then, one fateful day at Union Station, a simple tune pulled him back to everything that truly mattered. He didn't know that the small girl behind the battered keyboard, Arya, was his daughter. He didn't know that her mother, Julia Collins, was the woman he had loved and been forced to abandon. And he didn't know that the echoes of his past would soon collide with the life he had so carefully constructed. The path from that moment was neither straight nor easy. Nathan faced betrayal from within his company, public scandal, and personal guilt that nearly broke him. Julia faced the fight of her life, battling cancer with a strength that inspired everyone around her. And Arya, wise beyond her years, held the quiet resilience of a child who had known hardship but never let it steal her joy or her music. Through it all, what saved them wasn't power, wealth, or influence. It was connection. Music became the bridge, a shared language of love, regret, and healing. The simple act of playing a song together allowed them to rewrite their story note by note. In the end, it wasn't just a story of a father reclaiming his place in a daughter's life. It was about forgiveness, Julia forgiving Nathan for the years lost, Nathan forgiving himself, and Arya embracing both her parents with a heart still open to love. So, what can we take from this story? First, life will always present us with chances to mend what is broken, but only if we have the courage to take them. Nathan could have walked away, rationalizing that it was too late. Instead, he leaned in. He showed up when it mattered most. Second, forgiveness is not forgetting or excusing the past. It's choosing to release its hold on us to free ourselves and those we love to build something better. Julia's decision to let Nathan back in was not weakness. It was the ultimate act of strength. But in a world that often values appearance over authenticity, compassion remains our greatest currency. Nathan's transformation wasn't about corporate victories. It was about becoming a man his daughter could look up to, not just for what he accomplished, but for who he chose to be. And finally, no matter how far apart we've drifted from those we love, no matter how many wrong notes we've played in life, there is always the possibility of a new harmony, a second chance to create something beautiful together. As you reflect on this story, think about the bridges in your own life. Is there someone you need to forgive? Is there a second chance waiting for you to seize it? Remember, it's never too late to rewrite your melody. If this story touched your heart, please consider subscribing to our channel. Your support inspires us to continue bringing you more powerful, uplifting stories like this one. Thank you for watching, and until next time, keep listening for the melodies that connect us all.